So, one thing I'm learning about veterans is that it doesn't matter what branch you're in. Everybody has a good "I shit myself" story.
Oh,
So,
man.
I spent an
This is
hour.
what we're doing today.
I spent an hour of paid time at work last week with two other homies talking about times that we shit our pants in uniform. And I thought I had some pretty good ones, man. I tell you what, I thought I had some pretty good ones. This dude, though, I've never been on a boat before. I've never been on a floaty boy, and so my buddy was telling me when he was underway on the destroyer, the bathroom in whatever area he was in was out.
Yeah.
Sure. So he had to go from the aft end of the boat, which is the rear for civilians, all the way forward. And he like rolled over, and that little amount of effort getting out of his rack caused him to blow an O-ring. So he's now he's like, oh, well, I got to go shit and I got to clean myself off in the shower. So he grabs his shower stuff and he's doubled over, holding the bottom of his whitey tighties so it doesn't leak out the bottom of him. So he's like walking down the P-way like this, just doubled over, doing this little waddle thing. And the people are just like, oh, hey, Troy, like it's nothing. You just, it must be 2 a.m. He must have had bad food. Why judge him?
Okay. That's
you're just going to find yourself in the same spot as him someday. So, yeah, that's the thing I'm learning is that all veterans have a really, really good "I shit myself" story.
I don't. So,
but do any of your friends have one about you?
Actually, there was one time our ship pulled into Rockland, Maine. You're a neck of the woods,
2.5 hours,
and every year a Navy ship gets selected to go to Rockland, Maine for the Lobster Festival. Some stupid tradition. It's literally
awesome. It's a great time.
Yeah, sure. Anyway,
very honor yourself.
Not when you're on the ship and you have to fucking transit up there just for some bullshit. And you have to anchor out. So the ship's got to anchor like 2-3 miles out. You got to take a Liberty launch, which is you drop a small boat in up to the pier. We had a EN2, engineman second class, standing on the pier, drunk as fuck. And he's literally saying, I'm going to piss and shit my pants if we don't get on this Liberty launch. I'm going to shit and piss. And our CO and our XO are there, and they're like, you need to stop. You're an ambassador for the ship and the Navy. You can't be talking like that. And he goes, sir, I understand that. And he goes, I just want to let you know that I'm locking eyes with you. And I'm taking a shit right now. Needless to say, we got back to Mayport. He was an EN3. He got busted
naturally.
Yeah.
It do be like that sometime.
But
it's like a dog that makes eye contact with you.
That's gross. That's
He didn't get knocked down for being drunk and in public. He didn't get knocked down for shitting on the Liberty boat. He got knocked down because the CO was like, that guy's got too much potential. We need to limit him.
Yeah.
Very, very good start to the show. At least it can only get better from here.
It's like starting all your days with cardio.
It's good to start at the bottom and then now.
Yeah, just work our way up, just start with garbage stories. But no, everyone, thank you so much for joining us here at Liberty Risk Podcast. We're actually joined today by special guest John Davis, former staff sergeant with the U.S. Army, combat veteran, and also author of Combat to College. So, John, thank you for taking your time out on this early afternoon and joining us on the show. How you doing today?
I'm doing good, and every day is a beautiful day here in the Dominican Republic where I live.
Well, you just answered my next question. So, for the DR, so that's beautiful. I mean, that's a place people spend most of their life just saving up just to go see for like 4 days. It's some resort down there.
Well, that's when they go live at the resort. But if you live off the resorts, then life is a lot cheaper, healthier, and more peaceful. So we actually have 20,000 American veterans that live here in the Dominican Republic.
Oh, damn.
And we have veteran healthcare centers specifically for us. So we have a big veteran community. We have veteran events. And there are lots of veterans down here that are absolutely thriving. And that's why I started talking about veterans living abroad, because I'm seeing these guys out here living their best lives. I was out last night with a Vietnam veteran who's got a 25-year-old Dominican girlfriend,
naturally
living the dream his last couple of years on this earth. And I get to see veterans live the lives that they deserve after the military.
John's out there with Dominican living Bill Belichick. Dude,
if you're a Vietnam vet, you deserve everything.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah, those guys
get it, bro.
Yeah,
like, but he could probably get it. That's something I think a lot of people don't think about when we talk about, people like living abroad after the military service or when they're retired. Is that you have Dominican Republic, the Philippines, Puerto Rico, with a large military veteran population, and they have services out there for you. You have a VA. Is it a clinic?
We have veteran healthcare centers
You have,
here,
like,
so they
full
also put on
healthcare
events.
centers.
So they take care of veteran health. So out here for service connected stuff, you pay nothing out of pocket at all. There are no waiting times. You get great healthcare, and the healthcare I receive here in the Dominican Republic through the foreign medical program of the Veterans Administration is far superior than any VA I've ever been in the United States.
So they've already got it established that if you need help, the VA is taking care of it one way or another. They've got it figured out.
Yeah, so a lot of people don't know about the foreign medical program. So that's how veterans who live abroad get their health care. And here in the Dominican Republic, how I go to the clinic every week, I do physical therapy, I do mental health, I can get whatever medication, and then they will turn around and bill the Veterans Administration for my care. So I have nothing out of pocket. So I just walk in. If I want to go tomorrow and see a chiropractor, I'll be able to do that. And you cannot do that in the United States. You cannot call
I
the
know
VA
when I went to the urgent care,
tomorrow.
they were like, "Who do we bill?" I was like, "You bill the VA," and they were like, "All right, cool." And then I got a letter from TRICARE that was like, "Hey, you owe us money," and I was like, "Nope, that ain't right."
Right.
I was on the phone with them like 4 or 5 times trying to get them like, "Nope, this is the address you sent it to. This is how you do this." Like, "Sorry, we've never done this before." I'm like, "You have, you're just not used to doing it." And that's okay, because I don't do DTS very often, so that's why I don't yell at my admin staff.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to, I had to go to the emergency room a few months back, like a legitimate emergency. And the first thing they do with the hospitals here in America is they get the insurance and billing person to wheel their little card in with their computer, and it's like, "Oh, can you verify your name and everything?" I was like, well, Susie, I'm more worried about my fucking leg bleeding out right now, so can you come back fucking later? But I had to tell her like 9 times, please make sure that you contact the VA, because you get the 2 emergency room things a year through the VA. I mean, I think that's at least how it goes, but you have to contact them immediately so they cover that ER visit.
Yeah.
And I told her probably honestly 9 times. And then she finally came. She's like, "Oh, we just got off the phone with them." I'm like, "Who'd you speak to? How long was the phone call? What number did you call?" I'm like, "Give me all that fucking information."
Like, listen, based on this phone call, Susie, I can tell you exactly who you talked to.
Yeah. So it's, I mean, to hear that nice. Down in the Dominican Republic, it's pretty amazing.
I mean, that's the first thing when you think about moving abroad, or even when you move somewhere else, is healthcare. So that's kind of the first thing that I talk about in my book, Veterans in Paradise, is how healthcare overseas for U.S. veterans can be better, cheaper, and just a hell of a lot more painless to deal with. And a couple of reasons for that. One is like pharmacies here in the Dominican Republic. I can just go to the pharmacy and get whatever medications I want over the counter for pennies on the dollar compared to the United States. So a lot of veterans who live abroad, like, there's no even point to turn your stuff into TRICARE or anything if your medication is like $9 a month. So a lot of veterans down here who want certain medications for like blood pressure, for diabetes, for whatever, they're getting their medication for like literally 10% of the price that you're paying in the United States. And you can get private health care that is top notch pretty much anywhere in the world where veterans want to live, places like Thailand, Dominican Republic, Costa Rica, wherever, for like $1,000 a year. And this is top-notch healthcare. You can go in, English-speaking doctors, and get whatever you want. And then there's other stuff like the foreign medical program that I mentioned earlier, where veterans can get their service-connected care abroad.
That's wild, dude. For scale, the Dominican Republic has roughly the same landmass as West Virginia, and they've got it figured out way fucking better than like you think, like where it was sourced, the origin in America, we'd have it figured out now. But down in the DR, they're like, "Nah, bear, we got you."
Right. We have.
I'd be willing to bet that has some
beyond anything in the United States.
I'd be willing to bet that is got something to do with those locations being territories and not states. But it obviously is working in your benefit. John, how long were you in the Army for?
8 years, 8 or 9 years. So I did. I was infantry in the Army, and then I did recruiting. And when I went recruiting, I medically retired from that.
That makes sense. No, I get that. Yeah, you're like, "Oh yeah, being in the Army is great." Like, "Hey, go recruiting," and then that's when all the terrible stuff starts happening to you.
Recruiting is, especially because I was infantry in the Army, so recruiting is the first way to kill your career. When you go recruiting, it's something nobody wants to do, and it's also something you can't get out of. And all in all, for the most part, terrible experience recruiting.
Yeah, I've never heard anyone say that it's a good experience when you
Never
go
heard somebody
recruiting.
go like, "Man, I would love to do that again."
Yeah. And the people that become permanent recruiters are often the worst people in the military.
Oh,
So
for
what you
sure.
do is you get selected to go be a recruiter, obviously, and then you can transition over to be a full-time recruiter for the rest of your career. And
Yep.
these are the people that don't want to be in the military. They're usually the most toxic. Like when I went recruiting, I went as a staff sergeant, and my E7 had never deployed. My E8 had never deployed. My sergeant major E9 had never deployed. So I'm in
So
there,
crazy.
an organization of people, and like there's been a war going on for like 12 fucking years.
Yeah. By the time you got there, we're well into it.
Yeah, like you guys have been chilling out, avoiding the whole thing, lying to high school kids for the entire duration of the Iraq and Afghanistan conflict.
I want to be upset, but also like game recognized game. But I could definitely see, like, you obviously had to be a terrible fucking person to just dip out of the entire war and then convince other people to go to it at the same
Right.
time.
Like that's what they're saying.
But like, you know, what
Yeah.
was it? What's the old phrase? Like the greatest trick the devil played was convincing people he didn't exist. Just dress up as a recruiter. That's all he did.
Oh,
John,
and it's one of those things too, right? Where it's like, especially for the Navy side, you know, because I go back to what I know. They just always seemed lazy. Like the guys are like, or the ones that were, if they were stationed with you, they're like, why is this motherfucker always limb do? Like, why is he always like getting out of these underways or these workups?
Yeah.
Like, oh, now he's a recruiter. Fuck him. Like,
Yeah.
John, how long into your military career until that little spark went off in your head? You're like, I don't know that I want to live here after service.
So I actually had an interesting experience. So I was going to Harvard for grad school. Look at me.
John
So
might
I
be
used to look
one
at
of the
my
smartest
term.
people we've ever had on the show, Billy.
Well, that's not much competition based on some of the episodes.
You right.
One of the things when you go to Harvard, if you tell people that, they expect you to say a bunch of smart shit. So don't expect that much from me here today. But
Okay,
I was
fair
going
enough.
up there to grad school, and then COVID kicked off. So
Wow.
they told me, hey, you're doing the rest of your program online. So I said, okay,
Jeez.
but I'm getting Boston BEH, and Boston BEH is like $4,500 a month.
It is.
Yeah,
It is not a small amount, man.
No, and I had my 100%. So I went ahead and looked on a map, found somewhere in the East Coast time zone, moved down to the Dominican Republic, and rented a place for $500 a month while I'm getting Boston BEH.
Hell yes.
And my 100%. And that kind of just unlocked this total other way of living for me, to where I am so much more at peace, because everyone in the United States at this point in time were absolutely losing their minds. And I'm just hanging out on a boat. And I started talking about veterans living abroad in kind of an interesting way, because I was literally on a boat with a bunch of very pretty girls, like popping champagne. And I posted some pictures on my personal Facebook page, just like me on a boat with champagne. And in the United States, people are running around trying to get toilet paper, screaming at people, protesting in the streets. Dudes I deployed with were like, what are you doing? And I was like, I live in Dominican Republic. And they're like, you can do that? And I was like, you can absolutely do that. And then it kind of was like one veteran came down and I helped him get an apartment. And he got an apartment for a couple $100 a month. You know, he had just been divorced. And then he discovered this other high quality side of life. He lost a bunch of weight. He got healthy, you know, started exploring nature, got off medication. And then I looked at it as not only something where it's like, oh, you get cheaper rent, but no, it's a mental health thing for veterans.
There's a whole lifestyle change going on.
Especially when we're seeing 20 veterans continue to kill themselves every single day, when we're seeing veterans struggle financially, when we're seeing PTSD. Sometimes a change of environment can kickstart this change in everything, because you get a fresh start, a fresh way to look at the world, avoiding the chaos and the stress and the anxiety of the United States. So I see veterans come here and all of a sudden they lose weight, their medical conditions go away or diminish, and they become the best versions of themselves just by changing their environment.
That 100% makes sense. I know that we have talked to people before, and Billy and I've read some research, and like you can break it down into like there's 6 different factors that contribute to veteran suicide. One of them is access to the ability to do so, but like followed very closely behind it is environment.
Yes.
Service members come home, they get out of the military, and they're like, all right, well, I want to start a family, and I want to have a house, and I want to have a white picket fence, and I want to be near my family and everything. Well, those are things that are ingrained in you Those aren't necessarily things that you want. You're told that these are the things that you want. And then these are the ones, like, I think like the number one locale for veteran suicide is like suburban neighborhoods, as opposed, but then you go live abroad and you're like, oh, it turns out what I really wanted to do was be able to sleep through the fucking night. And I wanted to be able to breathe, and I wanted to just be able to relax, and I wanted to be responsible for things that only I want to be responsible for, not things other people said that I should be responsible for.
And for veterans, home is such an interesting concept. Like for me, I grew up in Iowa till I was 18, but then I joined the military, and I wasn't anywhere for more than like 3 years at a time until I got out of the military. And if you're a veteran, like your car is registered here, you registered to vote here, like you were stationed here, you graduated from here. So just the concept of home is kind of a foreign concept. And I can tell you, I felt very out of place when I went back home after the military, because I had changed so much. The place had changed so much. And going back there was very difficult for me to integrate back into like the hometown bar, hometown friends, and that type of thing. So I feel more at peace and at home here in the Dominican Republic, outside of America, than I ever did when I got out of the military, going back to my hometown.
You're finding a lot more people with the same kind of mentality in these locations that because do you live full time in the DR right now?
Yep.
But you travel a bunch, right?
I travel quite a bit.
Yeah. So when you're traveling, you meet other veterans and people, whether they're American or not. So you're finding this community that the military created for you, but you're not finding it where like you were told you were going to find it, which was supposed to be back home with family and friends and like where you knew. But as you say, you change, those places change, or they don't, and it is equally as difficult to reintegrate back in. But now you're finding, I'm actually finding what you said I was going to find. I'm just not finding it there.
Right. And in the United States, unfortunately, the community aspect has so much diminished from even when I was a child. So here in Dominican Republic, things like faith and family and community are extremely important. And in the United States, we kind of have a more isolationist culture. As opposed to veterans, they're so used to being surrounded by other people, smoking and joking, stuff like that. And then you come down to the Dominican Republic and people still get together with their families. They still go to the beach on Sundays. You still have things like malls. You have things like churches. You have things like parks where people go and hang out. And those have basically gone away from the United States.
Yeah, everyone's so locked into this damn thing, right?
Right.
And that's your social connection, right? So it's like
you could start a whole new job and your boss could give you a phone and be like, this is the only thing that you need to be successful here. Well, I know I've had that downrange.
Yeah, great example is, I had to travel 4 hours to the western end of North Carolina, and I have remote workers, and I sent her a message the day before. I said, hey, I'm going to take you out to lunch, pick a place in your town. I have to travel through there anyway. Let's go sit down and have a meal. I met this woman's worked for me for a year. I've met her once.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? So that's it's wild. Like to hear that's, how it is in the DR, in the Dominican Republic. That's awesome, because I've always said, and maybe it's, I'm a little older than you guys, I didn't grow up with the technology and stuff like that. I was right kind of at the transition of it. And I miss that part. I miss not being tethered to this thing for everything. Because I think you also you trusted people more. Right, you trusted. Oh,
for sure.
You trusted the human race a little bit more. Now this gives you a reason to hate. So to hear what you just said, that's really refreshing, John. That's really, really refreshing to hear.
I remember when I was buying my house up here in Sanford, and my mom was like, there's all these rapists up there. I'm like, you only fucking know that because you have the internet now. Like you wouldn't have known that 15 years ago. You're not going down to the town hall and like looking up crimes in the area. You're neurotic now. Like it's the thing you're expected to look up and know. Like, oh, well, let's look up rapists that live around your grandkids. You go, no, like, yeah, because you can't unhear it. So don't say dumb shit like that. But yeah, there was a lot more faith. There was a lot more trust, and there was just really a lot less. I don't want to say like less reality. There was just less needing to know more of the reality. You had what was going on in your world, and that's all that's ever been relevant. We just decide that other people's worlds are relevant in ours as well.
And that's kind of what you come here. You get to disconnect from all that stuff. In the United States, you can't really disconnect from it. I mean, the United States, even though we're technically like not at war right now, it still feels like we're at war with like a bunch of different countries. Like we're here in the Dominican Republic, If I was to tell I remember talking to a Dominican girl recently, and I was like, there was something on the news or something about like Palestine, Israel, and she was like, there's a war over there. She's like, isn't there always a war over there? I was like, yeah, there's always a war in that region of the world. Like, they don't think about that stuff. Like, they're not going out, and that's not a part of their lives. They care about their families. They care about what's immediately in front of them.
They care about what you have control over.
About something, even like on the other side of the island, doesn't even make sense, because they're like, no, what are we doing this weekend? Like, what's going on? You know, that kind of anxiety and stress that's everywhere in the United States just doesn't really exist like that in other parts of the world. And some of that is because you have a more homogenous culture. So in Thailand, for example, it's a bunch of Thai people hanging out. They're not as concerned about things that don't have anything to do with them or climate change or anything like that, like we are in the United States.
Yeah.
They're not like fighting with each other all the time.
That must be fucking nice.
Yeah. It's crazy.
John, I want to talk about a couple of your books that you sent me, but how long after you went to Harvard right after you got out?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, so that was roughly 2018. What year did the first book come out?
I think 2018, I think, around then. So that's my Combat to College book. So I wrote a book for student veterans because it didn't exist. So when I transitioned out of the military into college, I started college when I was like 30. And that was kind of a difficult transition because you're the only veteran in the room, and transitioning into higher education is often the first stop for veterans. I always tell people, you have two very clear classes of people in the military. It doesn't matter what branch you are. It doesn't matter anything like that. You have officers and you have enlisted. And these people have significantly different outcomes when they get out of the military. Officers don't kill themselves as much. Officers don't struggle with PTSD. Officers don't struggle with alcoholism. Officers don't even get divorced as much as enlisted people. So these people who have access to the same benefits, who live on the same bases, and have similar military experiences have very different outcomes getting out of the military. And one reason for that is because officers have a college degree the day they get their DD-14, whereas enlisted people, often the first stop is college, and their success or failure at college can really dictate the course of their future, because that first year when you get out of the military is the most important. A lot of people fuck that up. Like, they fuck up their first year getting out of the military.
Oh, yeah.
So for veterans that go to, and then you're just in a spiral. Like, that's what happens.
For sure.
So then veterans, if your first stop is college, and often it is difficult beginning college as a veteran because you're getting out of the military. You're moving across the state or even the country or the world, and you're starting school. And for a lot of us, school really wasn't what we were doing. That's why we joined the military, to not go to college.
Yeah.
But for veterans, if that's your first stop, I wrote kind of a how-to guide, how to be successful at college, how to network, how to use your military benefits correctly to set yourself up for success down the line.
I think it's funny, when we were younger, they were like, you can go to college, you can go to the military. And you're like, fine, I'm going to the military. And then you get out of the military and they're like, you can go to college.
You're like, okay, yeah.
Like, fuck, he got me. Got me again.
As a 30-year-old, because then you have veterans
you're 30. You have
considerations when you go to school. Chances
you have
are
life
you're older.
experiences.
You're more likely to have
pay your own rent.
You're more likely to have bills. Like, you're not just living home with mom and dad. So a lot of veterans really struggle in college. So I wanted to make that transition a little bit easier, because I went from failing out of community college when I was 18 and joining the military to having a master's degree from Harvard on the back end. And that's because I figured out how to use my military discipline in the classroom. Because college is not that hard. You just show up and you do what the fuck they tell you to do.
Yeah, I mean,
it's just like being in the military.
I mean, they even lay it out like, this is exactly what you need to do
over the next
16
class. Weeks. Here are your boxes that you have to check.
Yeah,
you are being tested on this. Like, that is what you're doing. You write paper on this. There's not any hiding the ball, and a lot of it is just doing the same thing over and over, which you can do in the military. So a lot of the book is like how to treat your college experience like a military contract, like showing up on time, doing all the right things, and then you're going to be successful. So, if you show up, you do the work, you're going to be good. But that can be difficult, as when you have that kind of freedom as well, because nobody's banging on your door telling you go to class, like, get to formation in the military.
I think that it's wildly different. I think it isn't. I think we perceive it to be wildly different because now it's do research, write paper, or study math and solve problems. And we're used to there being some physical labor involved. We have to put in like some actual effort. that isn't in this one little tiny bubble that school
Right.
is now, right? Like I can solve all my problems from within 3 feet of where I'm at now, and that's too close. I'm used to having to go across the base to find something or call somebody else. I looked through your
Veterans
combat.
are experiential people. So now one thing that I'm talking about with my stuff is how to use your GI Bill overseas. So a lot of people have no idea that you can use your GI Bill outside the United States and go to colleges. So to let veterans know who might be interested in that, the GI Bill rate abroad for BEH is a flat rate. So right now it's like $2,400 or $2,500 a month for BEH.
Good amount of money.
So that doesn't matter if you're in Spain, it doesn't matter if you're in Brazil, it doesn't matter if you're in the Philippines, it's the same rate. So it's not like the United States where it's based on that. So a lot of veterans, for example, in the Philippines, I know you guys in the Navy, so you're not a lot of Navy veterans are there. They're getting like their 100%, their military retirement, and using the GI Bill in the Philippines and making like 10, 12 grand a month while going to school to get their education. So if you go abroad to use your GI Bill, it can actually be, a great experience, a great education, and all that stuff. So that's one thing I talk about. And, on my blog and articles, I have some information on how to find schools abroad that accept the GI Bill and have veteran populations and things like that.
That's awesome.
One thing I really liked, in conjunction with your Combat to College, the Student Veteran Semester Journal. I really like this, and let me tell you why. I was going to do it anyways. So I've been going to therapy for a few years now, and I'm not really a big fan of it. But what my last therapist recommended is I start keeping a journal, which when I opened up the first page, all I saw was a green record book. The ones like blogs and shit. Like I opened it up and that's all I saw. And I was like, nah, I'm all right. I'm not going to do this. But I got a different one that is like, you spend like 5 or 10 minutes in the morning. How did you feel this morning? What do you have to get done? And there were some prompts in it. And then at the end of the day, I do it again. And I will say that the little bit of research that I've done is having these little prompts. What are your goals for the day? What is it you need to get done? Can you put your budget together? And then yours is, so Student Veteran Success Week 1. What assignments do you have? Your to-do lists, ideas, notes, and a planner. That's 3 pages. Any of us can do that. And then you have just some like stuff on the first page. It's like, hey man, here's some tips. Here's some reminders. And what I'm finding in a lot of the reading is that this little tiny bit of structure, right, is wildly more successful than be like, hey man, just go write it down.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, I wrote it down, but I didn't know what to write. So I just wrote a bunch of bullshit and I drew dicks all over it. And now I just have like a big old book with nothing helpful. But that little level of structure takes some of that stress fog away. Like, all right, I don't have to, it's no longer somebody leaning over me saying, hey, I want you to have all the answers all the time. Okay, well, that's kind of unreasonable, but all right, I'll do that for 8 to 10 years. Now it's, hey man, listen, I just need you to be able to do this in blocks. And then once those blocks are put together, you'll have the picture, and that's what we need you to do.
Yeah, and that first semester is very important. So that's kind of what the planner is for. Like
establish a lot of habits.
Exactly for a first semester student veteran to go ahead and go through the first semester and build some success off that. Because if you get through the first one, you'll probably get through the second one, you get through the third one, and keep treating it like that. And it's kind of just like little tasks, little things to do, little tips for veterans. And the book actually came to be, and the planner came to be because I was in a Student Veterans of America chapter, and I wrote down a list for like new student veterans who are coming into the school, like John's rules. Like, hey, this is how you use the academic center in college. This is how you talk to your professors. This is how you network and things like that. And then a bunch of people were like, dude, you should turn this into a book. Like, this is awesome information, like for student veterans, because that's sometimes all you need to veterans go from being told what to do, this highly structured environment of the military, into the civilian world, which is the most chaotic and unstructured environment.
There are no rules and also thousands of rules, and I'm in charge. And then turns out everyone else is in charge. And I thought I was the center of it, but it turns out everybody else is the center of it. And I'm not really sure what's going on, but I'm not doing it right.
Right. So, and it kind of goes back to the thing I mentioned earlier, where that first year where you got the military is so critically important for setting up your future. And for veterans started college, I wanted to, help them out and do that. So Combat to College to me was kind of like what started me writing, because I wrote the book somewhat out of necessity because it didn't exist. So I'm like, why is so many veterans of GI Bill the biggest benefit in the entire world, and yet not a single book or resource exists for enlisted veterans transitioning into higher education? How's that even possible?
It's wild. Just the
'Cause
fact
I went to buy a book. I wanted to buy it. I was like, I want to buy a book because I'm a big reader. I've always been a reader. So if it's something, I'm gonna read a book on it. I'm gonna read a book on how to go to college, because I was terrified I was gonna fail again, because I failed the first time going to school.
And when you were in the infantry, you were Rakison. Is that how you pronounce it?
Rakison, yeah, in the
Rakison.
101st Airborne.
Yeah. Well, there was a fucking book that taught you how to do that job.
Right.
You know what
The
I mean?
Army
Like
has
there's
FM.
always been a manual. Like as a CB, everything that I want to learn how to do has a manual first. There's a how-to. There's, Billy was a master at arms. There was a how-to arrest people. There's a how to talk to people.
Yep.
There's a how to do whatever. And you're telling me, oh, hey, by the way, after 10 years of teaching you how to do stuff so that in case you die, the person behind you could take over from the same spot. Your straight line is now a spider web, and that spider web is constantly being fucked with by a kid with a stick. And good luck.
Mm-hmm.
I think I have one of these. Yeah, VA benefits and I get one of these like every couple of years. The VA benefits and participation guide, and I think, oh god, there's way too many fucking sections in here with not enough information. Like I'm looking at like, all right, so getting career ready, education, training resources, career and employment benefits, both take up 5 pages.
Right.
That's it.
That's nothing.
That's it. Yeah.
There's not enough information in there.
Yeah. Oh, there's no second page. But like this whole book, I've read this I've done 5 transitions out of the Navy Reserve after deployment, and every single time I'm like, you're not changing. It's like buying a new textbook. You're just changing the font and you add in a comma.
And like I mentioned, if you got more enlisted veterans through college, they would be more suited and more set up for everyday life. And now the GI Bill is so flexible, you can use it for apprenticeship training, flight training, all these different things. That
you can be a massage therapist. You could be in like, you can use it for kids. Dude, I just found out some of these douchebags at work at the shipyard are using it in their apprenticeship. They're getting paid through the GI Bill while they're getting paid at their apprenticeship. I'm like,
you sound more. You don't sound
mad.
Angry.
Nobody told me. I'm mad. Nobody told me.
There we go. Thank you. I just wanted to hear that part of it.
I'm mad. Nobody told me.
I heard jealousy more than like angry. Like so.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, like that's you couldn't do that with the Montgomery. Montgomery was like, get out and go to college. Now it's the forever GI Bill, and they're like, listen, we asked you to do a lot of different shit over the last 10 years. Maybe we need your learning ability to be a little bit different. Maybe less.
And I viewed college as a good transition from the military into the civilian world, kind of like a bridge, because on that bridge you have a little bit of structure, you have things to do, you have kind of like you're getting set up for the real world, even while you're transitioning out, because it takes a little bit to get out of the military. A lot of people end up in this confusing in between space where they're not in the military anymore and they don't feel like they're a civilian. And during college is a good time to kind of like mentally get yourself over that hump to integrate back into society, so you can talk to people without cursing and things like that.
Yeah.
Which obviously you have not mastered, but
not even a little bit. Yeah, I don't plan on it either. Just I tell my doctor, I'm not going to quit drinking or smoking or eating red meat, and I sure shit ain't going to stop swearing at people.
One of the stories I write in the book is how like one time a professor asked me to stay after, and they're like, John, I love your participation, I love your attitude, I love how energetic you are in the classroom, but you have to watch your language. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, you said the F word like 6 times today. And I was like, I don't know how to talk. Like, I just came from the Army. I don't know how to talk.
Yeah.
Using that. So little things like that provide veterans a good transition out of the military. And then obviously, like I mentioned earlier, people with college degrees kill themselves at far, far lower rates than people without college degrees.
That's so
if you look at statistical rates as far as educational attainment for suicide, the more educational attainment you have, the less likely you are to commit suicide. So someone with a doctorate or master's degree is far less likely to kill themselves than someone who just graduated high school. It's like literally like this.
That's crazy.
So when I looked at education, I was like, okay, if I can help more veterans get through college, it's going to take down the suicide rates. It's going to help out. So, but the hard part about about writing and all that, especially, is just promoting the books, is getting them out there into the world. Like, that's the challenging part. I mean, I wanted my book, Combat to College, to be given to like veterans transitioning out of the military, going to school. I was trying to get avenues like that. Like, if you're
trying to get to those TAPS classes and those transition
all that
classes,
stuff.
like, hey, you guys should be handing this out.
Right, here it is. I'll provide a ton of copies for free for you or whatever, because if you're going straight from the military into college, which a ton of veterans are doing, I wrote a book on how to help you be successful to do that. And running into the bureaucracy of the military, like trying to get that resource in
just ridiculous
into people's hands who need it, is like an impossible task. Like, especially as someone without, like, at the time, like, I didn't have social media following. Obviously, I was just a veteran. Like, I didn't have any big publisher resources behind me. So getting it into the hands of the veterans who I thought would benefit from it was the challenging part.
That's 100%. I think, I know I've said it before, like, when you're getting out of the military, you're just ready. You're just ready to get out. I'm not listening to these briefings. I'm not really absorbing these resources. Yeah, all right, I'll take your book, I'll take your pamphlet, whatever. I'll do your 1 hour class, your 2 hour class, what have you. But like, I'm ready to be done, and that's why I'm here. Being able to walk out with something that you can be like, all right, let me go back later and look at this. Or you're unpacking, you just moved, I'm unpacking. Hey, I know I'm going to school. Let me take a look at this real quick.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to go a lot farther than, you know,
and I wrote it quick, entertaining, like it's just useful lessons for college.
Oh yeah, no, I did notice that part. That part I really did like.
Marines might not be able to handle it.
Well, I did notice there weren't a lot of pictures, but I noticed the chapters were short. I really enjoyed that part for myself.
Yeah, you can read it, you know, because I know if you write, you know, a 400-page book or a manual or something, no one's going to read it. But if it's like 10 straightforward lessons,
right,
from one veteran to another veteran on how to be successful at what the fuck you're doing. I'm not writing about like leadership. I'm not writing about something abstract. I'm writing about how you can get to the graduation stage successfully and set yourself up for success afterwards.
That's awesome. All right. So how soon after Combat to College did Veterans in Paradise come along?
This is Veterans in Paradise is this is the third edition that I wrote of the book. So the first started out like a blog article, like on my website. I was like, how to move abroad as a veteran. And then that kind of, I realized after doing some social media videos and stuff like that, a lot of veterans were really interested in moving abroad. And veterans tend to make like the perfect expats because we're already used to traveling. We're already used to having our lives in the bag. We're already used to being unpredictable. We're already used to blending and going into different cultures. So moving abroad for veterans kind of makes sense. And when I came to the Dominican Republic, I was surprised to find a veteran community already existed here. So then I kind of took it upon myself to be like, okay, let me help out my generation of veterans, the Iraq and Afghanistan veterans and stuff like that, to see that this other kind of life is possible after the military, that you can move abroad, that you can live cheaper, that you can live healthier, that you can live more at peace, and you can have a life that's a hell of a lot more fun. And an adventure. I mean, veterans are adventurers. We're explorers. That's who we are. That's why we joined the military. Like the idea of getting out of the military and then resigning yourself to a 9-to-5 cubicle type life is just really not for most of us because it's not who we are.
No, it's and you know, saying that's exactly what I have, and I don't know how many times I tell people this, right? You know, it's even when I go on these, you know, like I mentioned earlier, these in-state trips, right? I go from the area I'm in, which is all farmland and country, and then I go out to the, you know, Appalachian Mountains. And it was the coworkers I was with, I literally got out of the car as soon as we arrived where we needed to, and I stopped and I just took the air in, and they're like, dude, you okay? And I'm like, the air is different here. I was like, you guys don't appreciate stuff like this. I said, the air is literally different. I just took a deep breath and I'm like,
yeah.
And I said that, and I just said out loud, I was like, man, I just miss traveling. I just miss traveling.
Yeah. And here, like, just for me, like, better than any pill I've ever taken, better than any doctor's office I've ever sat in. For me, I could walk down to the beach and just look at the ocean. And having things like that is such a mental booster. I have a much better connection with nature. I'm disconnected from the chaos of the United States. The food here is healthier. The life is more natural. The people are friendlier. And
you just remove a lot of these stressors that you don't need and you don't want. and you create.
You mentioned like sleeping through the night, like that's what veterans want to do. When I came here, I started sleeping through the night. I stopped needing the anxiety medications that I had been on for years. I stopped needing, like, even my back felt better, like the muscle relaxers and stuff that I had been hooked on for so long. And a lot of what kills veterans is stress. Some of that stress comes from like financial stuff, because financial health is mental health. And when you can rent an apartment for $500 a month and you're not worried about paying the bills, it lifts this weight off your shoulders like you wouldn't believe. If you're not worried about how to pay the bills next month, if you're not worried about sinking deeper in a debt. And as veterans, we tend to not really be like materialistic, consumer driven people. We're more driven for like experiences, for travel, for adventures, for connections, for friendships. So like the idea for me to waste my money on like a big fancy house where I have to pay tons of fucking taxes and having a nice car is not really it. I'd rather be at a little beach house in the Dominican Republic or the Philippines and, you know, having a good time in my life.
Dude, I want to, you also wrote this book, hashtag Freedom Challenge. And one of these excerpts I was reading, peace has proven itself to be more dangerous for American veterans than war. We kill ourselves more than the enemy kills us. It's not only the stress that's dangerous for veterans and civilians alike, but also the lack of positive stress. The mental health epidemic in America affects everyone. Challenges build resiliency, comfort breeds complacency. The absence of risk is as dangerous as risk, because without an enemy to fight, it's easy to go to war with yourself. You're talking about, man, just removing these stressors that you, like I said, you don't need or you don't want. And all of a sudden, this fog that you're in, whether it's because you're medicated or you're confused or you're lost or you're not sure what's going on, your living abroad experience has been, oh, it turns out there were all these other stressors in your life that were preventing you from, you know, healing and seeing your full potential, and just that freedom from what I think we consider nowadays like, it's just a part of what it is. It's just, you know, a necessary evil. No, it's not. And you're in your travels, have you met a bunch of people who also have families with them?
Yeah, so there are. When I first started doing this, I thought it would be mainly guys like me, like single veterans who would be interested in moving abroad. And I always tell people, listen, I am a no kids, no wife, no pets, no problems type of veteran. That's not my thing at all.
Amen, brother.
Right. So, and that's originally who I started kind of preaching to, was especially male veterans, because there's such a men's mental health crisis in the United States. So I started thinking to myself, okay, if I can help male veterans like move abroad, come try it out, even travel, not necessarily living abroad or something like that, but kind of open people's eyes to the peace that you have on something like a vacation. Because if you think about how you mentioned, like you said, Billy, when you just relax, you're just those kind of like your cortisol levels drop, you live more in the present, you're more like, you're more awake in your own life, you know, you're more connected to nature, you're exercising more. And then I thought to myself, what if we just continued that vacation on and that was just your life? Like maybe life doesn't need to be this stressful, chaotic experience. Maybe it can kind of be fun and a good time, and you can feel at peace. Because after I got out of the military, especially after spending so much time in Afghanistan and everything, I just wanted peace. Like that was more attractive to me, and freedom. And somehow I feel more free outside the United States than I do inside the United States. Because inside the United States, you cannot be free from the bullshit. You can be free from everything else.
No.
You can't be free from the bullshit. You can't escape it. But here in the Dominican Republic, I can absolutely escape it. I can leave my phone. I can walk down to the beach and I can swim in the ocean. I can get out of the ocean. I can drink a coconut. I can hang out. I can get a massage. I can eat food for cheap. All of those aspects of my life are better. So when people talk about like the drawbacks of living abroad, I don't have any. Like for me, my life is better in every aspect. Like,
well, and you have a very unique experience too, because if you do find something that you don't like or is out of your control, you now know that you possess the tools and the capability to manipulate your environment back to where you want it.
Right.
You don't just have to accept it.
No. Yeah. So
how many?
And then to answer your question, kind of get back to that is, so I started with just men's, and then I was surprised how many female veterans were hitting me up, how many veterans with families were hitting me up. And I actually have like a degree in international education, and I've taught in both Thailand and Cambodia and worked in educational environments in like Africa. So I have a pretty good background understanding of international education. So I have a section in my book for families about how to move abroad as a family and get your kids enrolled in school and things like that. Because one thing I will promise you is that a lot of international private schools are far superior than American public education, both in quality of education and environment and all those things. There's not school shootings at like a private school in Punta Cana or something like that.
Yeah, right. I mean, really, yeah. And
Like,
you would,
that
yeah,
doesn't happen.
It's so crazy you say that. It's just because people, it's a societal thing, right? So
Right.
kind of going back to what I do for a living is our company literally, I told you we do the government stuff, but we also do K through 12. So it's like every day I have to be in what you
K
just
through 12.
like. I have to be in that mindset of how do I keep schools safe, and it's mentally exhausting, right? I come home and I have two daughters, and they're both in high school. So it's
don't like that.
I hate that I have to have my train of thought has to be like I have to have conversations with my children in this day and age in America. If there's a school shooting, this is what you need to do. I know the school tells you this, but then with our background as veterans, right? We always have that instinctual, whether you're in for 4 years or 40 years, you're kind of ingrained with this warrior protective mindset one way or another, right? It's that fight or flight, and you kind of inadvertently will run towards helping someone, right? John, you do it. You're helping people through the knowledge that you give them. You know what I mean? With my job, I'm helping schools, at least putting up maybe another barrier for protection for these kids. But in America, I don't get to relax mentally because there's these things that this country has done, right, that has put me in this mindset where I always feel tense. I always feel tense in everything that happens, these interactions. And I have been blessed. I've been blessed with, I joined pre 9/11, and the ship I was on, I've been to 29 different countries, and we spent at least a week there. So I've seen 29 different countries for at least 7 days, and I know the world is bigger than the bubble you grew up in. Right. And I know that there's different cultures, different food, different ways of life, different ways to relax, different ways to live your life. You're not stuck like kind of Hugh, what you went back and said, it's like, oh yeah, it's either you have the military or college. Well, that's not life, right? I tell my daughters now, I'm like, do what makes you happy. Just be a good human being. Like just be a good, decent human being. I go back to what my grandfather always taught us. If you can, you should. Meaning if you have the capabilities to help someone, whether it's helping an old lady across the street or maybe giving a homeless person $1 or whatever it is, if you can, you should. Just be a good human. And that's what that means, right? My grandfather always said, if you can, you should. Just be a good human being. You don't have to go to college. You don't have to do this. Do a trade. Travel overseas.
Write a travel blog.
Write a travel blog, right? And I didn't know about resources because, John, if I did, when I got forced retired and immediately got my 2 daughters, and it's just been the 3 of us. They're in high school now, but they've been with me for 10 years. If I had the opportunity to move to a different country,
Billy definitely would have got it out in Puerto Rico in a banana hammock.
No, I mean
DD-214 with a coconut in his hand and a straw hat for sure.
No, I mean I would have taken the opportunity to raise my children overseas and have them experience those things. You know what I mean?
You know what's so funny, Billy, is John, the reason I asked about the families is I think more often than not, when I ask people why they don't go somewhere, I think they default to their kids, which I think is an internal fear that they haven't realized. But I think it's hilarious that a lot of military people I shouldn't say a lot of military people because I meet a lot of cunts that don't pass their overseas screenings but still get paid. But if you'll take your children to Spain, Italy, Japan, South Korea, Turkey, Germany, and if your child goes to school in a Department of Defense school, second language is mandatory. But you won't leave the country as an adult and go somewhere that you choose to go, that not only probably understands at least conversational English, but your child could freely learn a second language without it being a requirement. So I think it's funny, not funny, haha, funny, like people are like, oh yeah, no, we don't do it because of our kids. We want our kids to have this, that, or the other. Like, yeah, well, your kids could have a lot fucking better, maybe,
and
maybe
so
somewhere else.
one of the things, like the families that we have an event next weekend, for example, and we'll have some military people there, some veterans that'll come in, and they have kids here and that type of stuff. But one thing with that is families can spend a lot more time together abroad. You live a more family-centric life as opposed to the United States. I mean, Billy, you probably know kids are running around doing stuff. Like you see your kids for like a little bit at night or something like that.
Yeah.
And so when you move abroad, you get a little more time as a family. So one of the veterans that I talked to recently who has their family here, that's one thing they said was they realized their kids were growing up like with them, but like in this different life.
Where they're growing up near them.
It's kind of like that. You're in the same house, but it's like you don't have that kind of together family stuff. And then when you come here, or something like here with your family, you have this kind of like alternate way of life that you can go about it. And a lot of like the expat kids all hang around together. Like where I live, we have a lot of Canadians. There's some like Russians here and lots of Americans, and then different Europeans. And then so the kids all hang out together. Then you get the local kids in there too. So it's a good, it's a good mix.
It's so funny that the mix that you have in these other locations, like, in the state, I mean, Maine is 97% white people. So like, that is what it is. But living in like Norfolk and Jacksonville, and you talk about like different boroughs in New York, like you gravitate to your own kind. And I think it's an amazing observation that in other countries, people who are not native born do not only gravitate to their own, they gravitate to people who are not local. Doesn't matter where they're from.
And that's what, so a lot of families do really well abroad. And I have obviously moving abroad for family comes with additional challenges, comes with additional costs. I mean, that's kind of the way it goes. But I do want veterans with families to know that it's still a possibility. You can still do it. There are a little more challenges to it and things like that. But I have a section in my book, Veterans of Paradise, for families, and I am providing the book to anybody for free. So the physical copy is available on Amazon, but I will send you the digital copy for absolutely nothing. And that is because I'm the only veteran out there that does this living abroad stuff. Like there's a million veterans that write dumb books about fucking leadership or whatever else. But as far as the veteran community goes, I'm the only dude out there telling veterans, you can live in another country, you can receive your benefit. This is a blueprint for how to do it. So it's really kind of like a one of a kind book for the veteran community. And I want to get the information out to more veterans. So I appreciate you guys letting me come on and kind of letting me tell my story and get that information out there, because so many veterans have no idea that you can do this. Meanwhile, struggling in the United States, they're struggling with relationships, they're struggling with finances, they're struggling with mental health. Right. When if you change your environment, it can lead to a change of everything else.
It's an amazing resource. You're 100% right. And we get out of the military and people are like, well, how are you gonna excel and succeed outside of the military? Maybe I'm just gonna breathe for a while. Maybe that's it. Maybe like that's enough. Like
instead of jumping into the rat race.
Yeah,
I mean, a lot of veterans do 20 years in the military and then get out and just go straight back to work.
Right, they go straight back to work doing the same shit they did for 20 years.
And when it's like, okay, and some of that is, if you think about life, you need three things for a good experience or whatever. You need time, money, and health. And the problem we have in American society is by the time you have the time and the money to do something, you often don't have the health, because you're 65 fucking years old. You have worked your entire life. So when I retired, I was like, I want to do it young, to where I can appreciate life. I can have these good experiences. I can go paragliding in Colombia, or I can climb a mountain and fucking wherever. Whereas,
how are you rubbing it in? But whatever.
Experiences when you're in your 80s, when it's time to do it. Timing is really important for life. And I mean, the clock keeps marching. Like you're only getting older. Time only keeps going, and you're going to regret things you didn't do a lot more than things you did. So I tell veterans, if you're thinking about moving abroad, I have written a blueprint to it. And the first thing to do is do like a trial run. Come down to the Dominican Republic for like 30 days. Go to Costa Rica for 30 days. Go to Japan for 30 days and see how you feel and try stuff out. And after that, you'll know if it's going to be for you or not.
That's an important distinction, is length of time. I think, when you're in the military and you're active duty, you take leave, that, you're really only going to take like 5 to 7 days depending on how far you're going. That's not really a break. It's really like it's like an extended liberty. You have to be back at a certain time. You can be recalled. I think it's important to tell people, hey, listen, 30 days is not, 2 pairs of jeans and 3 t-shirts. That's a lengthy period of time. You have to make a concerted effort to fill 30 days, whether that's activities, it's relaxation, it's experiences, what have you, and then actively figure it out in 30 days.
Yeah.
At your 7-day mark, I think is for a lot of people at 7 days, you're like, all right, I'm either done or I don't know how to keep going after this. And I think after that first week, it's like, okay, you don't have to do stuff every day. You could just wake up and sit on the front patio all day. If that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do. Take the extra time, figure out if that's going to be for you. Like, Guinness, you want to go to Dominican Republic? Yeah.
Yeah. And moving abroad is not for everybody. It's not for most people. But the veterans that it's for who want to look into it, I want to provide a resource. And I always tell people, I'm not encouraging you to move abroad. I'm not saying that you should sell all your stuff tomorrow and run off and live in a foreign country. But the veterans who are interested in it, I want to provide the information to let you know that not only is it possible, but it might be the best thing you ever did. Because I always tell people the 2 best things I ever did was fighting for America and leaving America.
That's awesome.
So John, before we get out of here, how many places have you been to outside of the U.S.? And we're not talking about combat related stuff. Places that you intentionally went to go visit.
So I first started kind of more seriously traveling after I wrote my first article and started doing content online about the Dominican Republic. So I was like, if you're a veteran, you can come down here, you can rent an apartment, you can get your healthcare here, you do that kind of stuff. And so many veterans were like, what? I didn't know that. And then so I started doing a little bit more research. I found out there was an American Legion in Mexico. They actually have 4 American Legion posts in Mexico.
Oh, wow.
And VFWs, and a lot of veterans living there. So I flew to Mexico. I met with the commander of the American Legion there. I talked to him. I researched around. I found out how they get their health care, did all that stuff. And I wrote an article about veterans living abroad in Mexico and kind of laid out some of the information, this is how you get a visa there. This is good places for veterans. This is bad places for veterans. This is how you conduct yourself here. And laid out everything you need to know as a veteran who might be interested in moving to Mexico. And again, people are like, wow, I didn't know that. So then I went to Costa Rica. And I spent a couple of weeks there, and I met with the American Legion, and I talked to veterans there, and I went around the places and did the same thing and wrote an article about that. So when I went places to write about it, to talk about it, I always spent a month there, to kind of get into the culture and talk to people and all that stuff. So, so I did that, and then I went to Jamaica. I didn't like Jamaica. I thought Jamaica was one place I went that I did not like it when I returned to. So I didn't write an article. I didn't encourage veterans to move there because there aren't any better resources there or whatever. But now they have, they just opened a new veteran clinic in Medellin, Colombia. So I'm flying there October 1st. I'm gonna stay there for a month. I recently went there 2 months ago, and I wrote an article on veterans living there. So now if you're a veteran, you can get your health care in Medellin, Colombia. And a lot of veterans don't know that. So now I'm laying that out, how to do that, how to go there, how to live there, and all that stuff. So I've been, I don't know, maybe a few different places. Same with Thailand. Same with the Philippines. I spent some time in the Philippines. The Philippines has the only Veterans Administration, the only VA hospital outside of the United States. So I went there. The Philippines has a big veteran population, a lot of Navy people there. They have probably 6 or 7 VFW posts. So they have meetings, they have events, they give back to the community.
That's awesome.
They don't just sit around and drink beer all day. They get out and do stuff. Like my organization, wear my t-shirt, Veterans in Paradise.
Hell yeah.
We have a website and we have events. We give back to local community. We get veterans together because our goal is just to provide community for veterans abroad. Because if you come down to the Dominican Republic, it's okay, you already have a built-in network of veterans here. We have people that are help you, okay, you want to rent an apartment. This is kind of who to talk to if you want to rent an apartment. You need a handyman. You need help with something. You want to rent a car. You want all this stuff. So we want to provide a resource for veterans, like a PCS guide, kind of here's how you move here. Here's how you do your healthcare. And then we bring veterans together to have a good time. Next Saturday night, we're having a social get together. There'll be about 50, 100 veterans there, just drinking beer, making friends, enjoying our lives.
That's awesome.
So it's anyone who wants to look into it, it's veteransinparadise.com. You can go check it out. I put out a free monthly newsletter about veterans abroad, talk about veteran businesses abroad, talk about veteran resources. Like, here's a really good school in, Romania. You can use your GI Bill at, and they have a GI Bill set up,
Nice.
little stuff like that you wouldn't necessarily think about or know or whatever. So that's what we try and do.
Awesome.
Oh my
Hey,
God.
John, and we'll post the links for this at the end of the episode for everything that you got.
And I want to tell veterans, if you want the Veterans of Paradise digital copy, just hit me up on social media or email, and I'll send you a copy for free. It's also available on Amazon because a lot of veterans want a physical book. Like, you want to hold the book in your hand.
Oh yeah, that's how I am. Yeah.
I can't read on the screen personally, but for me, like, when I started talking and doing this stuff, it wasn't ever to like sell books or make money or create some type of business or anything like that. It was just literally, no, here's the information. So I want to continue that and be like, hey, if you're a veteran, you want to move abroad, I have a blog with tons of information, and I'll send you a 300-page book that I wrote explaining the process from start to finish to living abroad, mental health abroad, healthcare abroad, safety abroad, families abroad. Everything you need to know as a veteran living overseas is in the book, and I'll send it to you for free. That's
awesome, John. I mean, that's you don't hear that much, and it's awesome what you're doing. It's inspiring. It's I wish I had the opportunity to do stuff like that. My life path took a little bit different, but you never know.
Kids graduate. We'll do the next episode.
4 years. I look at these kids. I tell my youngest daughter all the time, I was like, 4 fucking years and your dad's disappearing. I'm leaving. No, but John, thank you. That's right. Thank you so much for taking the time again out of your day to join us here at Liberty Risk Podcast. We'd love to, in the future, have you back on, give us those updates on, and the stories that, from the places you visit and what's going on out there in the world. And, again, super inspiring what you're doing. And hopefully, we'll hear more stories of how this podcast helped people reach out to your organization and inspired them to take that leap of faith and, see what really is out there in the world. Everyone, thank you so much for taking the time to listen to us. As usual, go to libertyriskpodcast.com for all the updates. And John, again, thank you so much, brother. And we wish you the best in everything you do.